Hello and welcome to Game of Thrones Offseason. Tonight we're discussing the villains of Game of Thrones, who we love to hate. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Yes. Here we are, back to talk about the best show on television. I'm your host, Kristen Elizabeth Snyder. Joining me,
I'm
Mr. Dave Child.
I'm Dave Child. I'm here. I'm going to talk about some baddies. Ooh, they're the baddest of the bad, and I'm going to talk about them.
In case you didn't get that, we're talking about villains tonight. Also joining us for a special appearance, Tara Erickson.
I guess I'll talk weird too. My name's Tara Erickson, and I'm here to talk about Game of Thrones. That's not how I talk. Cool.
And
Just like the Game of Thrones people.
Ryan Malaty, what you got for us?
Hello.
Oh boy.
Little fingers with us tonight.
It is me, Ryan Malaty, and chaos is not a pit, it's a ladder. And you can climb it all the way to the top of this impeccable podcast. Happy to be here. It went from
Yeah.
from Aiden Gillen to Batman.
It's like downhill at the end, but it was good in the beginning.
Some of
You guys
our
just have me rolling
villains
over
are
here.
here with us on the panel. Others are still in Westeros. We are here to talk about the wicked men and women of the land of Game of Thrones. One thing they all have in common is their ruthlessness in meeting their goals. They will do anything. But just the general, I just want to talk about villains in general for a second, because for me, great movies have to have a great villain. The villain has to be just as compelling as the protagonist for me, or I lose interest in people's motivations and what's going on. I want to be rooting for both sides. So what I love about Game of Thrones is the fact that we do, whoever the villain is, we understand their motivations, and sometimes we even might side with them even though they're fighting our other favorite character.
Yeah,
How do you guys feel about them?
I agree. I feel like there's a common misconception about villains that they have to be unlikable. On the contrary, they have to be extremely likable. All characters in a story have to be likable. And the great villains of Game of Thrones prove just that you can have an impeccably evil character, but like them nonetheless and root for them on both sides. Do you want to talk about some news before we jump into your...
I would absolutely love to talk about some news. I think Ryan and Dave have some news for us tonight.
Hot news. Hot goss, as Ryan just like
My chair
floored by it.
malfunctioned.
He has to go down a well to get his news.
We're good. All right, I came down there and I came back up. Do you want me to start us off?
Yeah, you can start.
Why not? All right, so guys, I got for us the well, it happened a couple weeks ago, but since we only do the show. By the way, I hope your holidays were fantastic.
Thank you.
Welcome
you so
back
much.
from Happy New Year, everybody. But a couple weeks ago, the season 8 teaser came out. HBO released it. It's not a trailer technically because it doesn't have any actual new footage. Although I will get to that. We did find some new footage in a HBO commercial. But first, let's take a look or a listen to the new season 8 teaser for Game of Thrones.
Oh, there's torches in this one.
Yeah. So we find ourselves down here in the crypts of Winterfell.
Oh yeah, I saw this.
You can see the iconic feather get brushed off, the feather that Robert Baratheon left for his late wife.
This horror that's come to my family. It's all because I couldn't love a motherless child.
Or Jon Snow's mother.
You are a Stark. You might not have my name, but you have my blood.
Bunch of callbacks. Well, that's a lie. Ned Stark was lying to his son.
Yeah.
That we know now. Here we are, the 3 Stark children. Coming face to face. Was it Lyanna? Was it Rhaegar? Who those characters are in stone.
It kind of looked like reflections of
them.
themselves. Yeah,
I think it's
Maybe them.
them.
Yeah,
Is it
that's
them?
what I thought too.
Them as
Facing their
older
own
though?
death.
Yeah, facing their own like destruction, I think.
Yeah, because it looks like winter's coming, and maybe they've just been frozen there. Who knows? What do you guys make of that?
I think it's supposed to be metaphorical. I think it's supposed to be this is their family is dead, and this is where they'll end up once they come face to face with this could be their death.
Well, that implies that there's someone left to bury them.
Oh,
so it's not
true.
scorched earth, is what we're looking at, maybe.
Maybe, but it also means they're dead. All three of them are dead. All three of the Starks are dead.
and Melisandre is gonna bring them all back. That's what she does.
I also don't think they're literally gonna die. I think it's just the threat of death is they have to.
It's looming underground.
Yeah,
it's where all of our destinies are.
But seeing that in the statues, it's like that was there years ago, and it's like they are right where they're supposed to be, and they almost didn't have a choice, and this was their fate. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of another way that I saw it, is they are where they, how is it possible that the three of them are there together at that moment, discovering themselves in stone? So it's almost like this was always laid out to happen.
Yeah, the idea of fate has been challenged on the show many times, but we're starting to see that there is something to it, especially with Bran and his three-eyed raven abilities. It's almost as if you can't see anything as an accident. It's all been preordained or pre-aligned.
Isn't that interesting that we don't see Bran? That it's the three. It's Sansa.
It's the three strongest.
Yeah,
maybe Bran was envisioning all of that.
Raven.
Yeah, it's
maybe they're the eyes.
They're the eyes. I don't know, that's interesting how it's because I just said the last remaining Starks, and then I was wait, that's not true.
Yeah, no, Bran.
True.
Bran's still there.
Good catch.
Do you have some news for us?
Well, before I have one more video, but before we show you guys, we wanted to take a second and say thank you, as always, for being fans of our show. If you're watching right now on YouTube, please give us a like if you like what you see. Give us a comment. Tell us what you think about this particular teaser or the discussion that we're having today, who your favorite villain is. And if you're on iTunes listening, I mean, don't feel shy. Come on down to YouTube and check out, watch these trailers with us. But you can also give us a rating on iTunes. See, we'd love to see the ratings and hear what you have to say about our podcast.
Definitely.
And thank you for making us the ESPN of TV talk. Being a part of AfterBuzz has been such a great part of my life. So
absolutely,
we love you.
Thank you guys.
I love it.
On to you, Mr. Dave Jones.
Well, no, got rather one more.
Jesus.
All right, guys, we're gonna throw.
35 minutes.
I know. We're
Right.
gonna throw up on this HBO came out with a trailer for all its new original programming.
Winkler's gonna
And this
be
is-
And we're just fast forwarding here to 38 seconds in. We see an actual never before seen scene
Ooh.
from the new season. Go ahead.
Okay.
Winterfell is yours, Your Grace.
That's it. And cut it. So that's it. You got 5 seconds of brand new footage. You see Daenerys Stormborn with Jorah Mormont up in the north, walking up on Jon and Sansa. Jorah was there with Daenerys. They walked up originally together. Jon's standing there with Sansa, and they walk up, and then Sansa says, "Winterfell is yours." I was on Reddit looking, scrolling through stuff, and I saw that there was a parallel between when Ned Stark welcomed Cersei into King's Landing. He says, "Winterfell is yours, my lady." And the same, and from the background, Jon Snow's looking like, what? What does he mean by that? And then same thing's going on here with Brienne of Tarth right over Sansa's shoulder, like skeptical, skeptical. I don't know what's going on. It's interesting if they meant to do that, because it parallels season 1 quite closely. A foreign queen coming into Winterfell for the second time. We'll see what happens.
Look at how cuddly Jon is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's all grown up.
Yeah, cuddly with the
Anyway, so that's my section. And
Oh,
I got
Dave,
stuff now.
If you have anything,
what you got for
it's
us?
your turn now.
I got no visuals though, but I do got some. I got some news. This is actually about the future of Game of Thrones, because they're talking about prequels coming out after this last season of Game of Thrones, and they're very tight-lipped about anything about the prequels. They're not saying who the characters are, who anyone is in it, but they have announced some casting. And the biggest name is Naomi Watts. She's going to be in it.
Her.
Me too.
It's very good. It's very interesting casting. I feel like she's very Targaryen-y. maybe.
Yeah.
She feels like she
Yeah.
would fit into that
I
world.
agree. Yeah.
But they're also casting a bunch of young, like as no name as Maisie Williams was, like starting off in this season. But they're casting a lot of young, diverse cast members. So they're trying to have as many races as possible in this like prequel season. And it's not going to be as white as the Game of Thrones
As the
we've been
White
watching.
Walkers.
Yes. So that's really nice that it's going to be more diverse, and we're going to see more shades of the world, and that's all my news. But Naomi Watts, it's pretty cool. She was asked at the Cannes Film Festival about this, and she's already trained to be like, I can't tell you anything.
She said
It's a great world.
It's
What
a magical
fantastic
world, and everyone's like,
world I get to
oh,
be
is
part
it
of."
now?
Oh, but then she says nothing else. We don't even know what her character's name is. All the character listings and like
It's like a single letter.
they're all like W2 and L3.
God.
Like they won't say anyone's name or any clue because
Wow.
the mythos is so big that
Yeah.
if they say like, oh, casting someone named Dunk and someone named Egg, they might know exactly who those
Right.
characters are.
Right.
Which I kind of hope it's the Dunk and Egg story. But right now we
Sounds
just
like a
have
great
W2 and
breakfast
L3.
place.
That sounds like weird auto parts.
Gonna go down
Yeah.
to the Dunkin' Egg for some.
Dunk and Egg.
some
Dunkin'
hash
Donuts,
browns.
they have eggs.
The one bit of news I want to share before we get into our countdown is that the premiere is actually scheduled for April 14th. We've got a date.
April 14th.
April 14th. Put
Write
it on
it
your
down.
calendar, put it on
Start
your
it.
friend's
Circle
calendar,
it.
write home
Tattoo.
about
Take
it.
off work.
Tattoo.
Cancel that wedding.
Tattoo.
They're still gonna love you, but the premiere is only on that date.
Exactly. So tune in, or else you're going to miss everything next day because everybody's going to be talking about it, spoiling it for
We'll
you.
be here
So
spoiling
everyone's
everything.
gonna
we will
say
be.
everything.
So watch it, tune in to us, hear what we got to say. All right, top of my list, guys.
Villains, let's
Listen,
get into
I made
it.
a list of villains. I put maybe like not the coolest villains at the top, number 12, and then I count down to what I think the best villains of the show are. Maybe not
Right.
my favorite, just the show's
Okay.
biggest villains.
That's what
Feel
was your
free
theme.
to
Okay, got it.
debate me, but this is just my order of, worst to best villains, I guess. So let's start with Euron Greyjoy,
Euron
also known
Greyjoy.
as King of the Iron Islands, King of Salt and Rock, Son of the Sea and Wind, Lord Reaper of Pike. He says, I don't mock the drowned god. I am the drowned god. From Old Town the Karth, when men see my sails, they pray. What do you guys think of Euron? I like him as like this, pirate to the extreme,
Yeah.
takes no prisoners. Like, he just takes what he wants.
You know, I like Euron for his charm as a dirty pirate is awesome. But the main thing I love about Euron is that he reminds us how big this world actually is. It wasn't until six seasons down the road that we realized there was Euron with his following of half of the Greyjoys, and their 1,000 ships. It's just there are characters out there in this world that can bring across that great deal of conflict this late in the game. It just reminds you that this world is bigger than the box we try to put it in sometimes when we talk about the Game of Thrones.
Right.
Yeah, I just like that he ripped out everybody's tongues because he wanted silence. I'm like, totally. If I could do that just for a moment and then be like, I'll give it back later.
Yeah, I'm glad you put that
Just
coda
real
in there.
quick.
Just one second.
Specifically
Okay.
to Mr. Dave Child, and then hang it around, and then be like, you can talk now again.
I would wish that could happen.
Yeah,
I
I
wish I
wouldn't
could
have to
take
take
my.
so much Tylenol.
Go ahead, finish your sentence.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, Euron did have to murder his brother Balon to take control of the throne, but
And his
everyone
father.
sort of supported that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And his father.
Yes.
He's
And his
kind
father,
of a
thank you.
classic bad guy. He's kind of like. I feel like in the level of bad guys, it makes sense that he's like number 12 because it feels like if you're fighting the Game of Thrones video game, he's like level 1 boss.
Right.
Yeah.
Where he's just kind of like, yeah, this is the bad guy.
Yeah.
But there's a lot worse guys. He's almost like too bad. He's not that. We were talking earlier about how likable like bad guys have to be and relatable. And
Right.
this guy's like, he's just kind of a, kick stuff down, burn stuff up.
Right.
Yeah.
A big part of what
Brute.
makes
He's
a
a
great
brute.
villain is their motivations, right?
Yeah.
What's motivating this guy and to make the cruel and zany decisions that he makes. And it seems like he just wants a sugar mama of evil.
Yeah.
That's
Cersei,
really
he
what he
wants
wants.
her.
He wants a woman in power, and he wants to be her foot soldier, and that's just all. He's a simple man.
He wants power, but he's not like
not
a chess
really.
master.
Yeah.
He's like, once he got power, he'll probably be bored with it and move on to something else.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
I feel like he's kind of witty. I liked his line that I wrote down where he's like, well, I have 1,000 ships in 2 good hands, that he said to Jamie. And you're like, oh, sick burn, man. Which I enjoyed.
I assume he did. I remember him doing jazz hands, right?
And you got to know he wrote that down like,
Like,
2 weeks prior.
yeah, like
when he's sitting in his ship
earlier,
like,
and
I'm
he
going to
was like,
burn him.
1,000 ships in
So
2
good.
good. What is
1,000
it?
ships in 2
God.
good.
Oh.
He's definitely the villain behind the scenes practicing his lines.
Yes.
Like, before he
Yeah.
goes
Oh,
to
Sure.
He's looking in the
capture
mirror,
people.
looking at his leather, and he's
making
like,
sure
yeah,
he looks
okay.
like the villain.
I'm going to unstrap a few of these straps, let them dangle, let them hang. I look crazy.
I want to make sure we get through all these, so I'm going to jump to Sons of the Harpy.
Okay.
Now, I like them a bit better than Euron just because they've got these masks, and they're named after the Harpy, their traditional symbol of the slave masters. They wore the golden masks, the horned faces, resembling the Harpies, and they, came about because they were opposing the rule of Daenerys. She was coming to Marine, and, they were made up of former slaves who were against, her being there and taking control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were collectively they were a threat. I mean, they took out Sir Barristan, they took out who else did they take out? Grey Worm? No, but he was okay. They were a faceless villain almost. I mean, we had that one character. I don't know if we ever. I think she did get a name. Ma, I think was her name.
Yeah.
She was the one who would cradle the men, before she killed them. So they kind of had a face of leadership, but ultimately were faceless and seemingly motivationless. It just seemed like they just
they wanted their old ways
overturn-
to maintain.
Yeah.
They wanted like the slaves to still be slave masters. They wanted
Right.
the old ways. If anything, they're scary, especially from a modern perspective, because they're anonymous, hidden, can pop up at any moment. They feel a lot like terrorists that we
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
have these days, and and it feels relatable because it feels like a real world scary issue where this old mentality is bringing everyone together, and you also don't know who's on whose
Right,
side.
you could be
Right.
Son of the Harpy.
And Tyrion made a deal with them, and they broke the treaty.
Right.
They went back and just went nuts. So it's
Yeah.
like I feel like they are like true terrors in that regard.
Yeah, and it could be anyone. It could be the person next to you, like in that scene where everyone starts putting on their masks in the actual, like, when they start to attack in the dragon pit. That's kind of, or what became the dragon pit, the gladiator pit. That's like where they really kind of showed their face and really got to be a scary villain.
Yeah, I agree. Next on my list, number 10, the High Sparrow. And I think he's a bit better than Sons and Euron just because, he's this holy man, unexpecting, serves the people till he disagrees with your morals, and then he'll lock you up forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, he was appointed the High Septon, which he reestablished the Faith Militant, which was this holy army of hell, really.
Yeah.
And Cersei thought it was going to be her secret weapon, but that totally backfired on her.
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this guy is really scary because he militarizes faith, right? And faith is an idea that's so much bigger than anyone, whether you're good or bad. If you throw the idea of a god, an overarching, deity, it's like if you have people believing in that, then you can get them to do whatever you want. And you have this guy that has the citadel
Like
by
the
the
goal.
balls.
Yeah.
He's like, whatever he says goes, and someone like that, I don't know if that is kind of explicit, is it? I don't think it counts. But you have someone like that with their motivation is just purely to hold on to power. They have no interest in material wealth, in gold, they're only interested in having people do exactly what they believe in. And with someone like that, pure power at their disposal, it's a really scary thing.
And someone with a righteous cause can be very scary.
Yeah.
Or what they believe is a righteous cause. And that what makes him so you can't control him. He seems like such a nice, sweet priest guy. And
Yeah.
then his righteous cause is like giving him that tunnel vision, and he won't listen to any outside influence. only what he believes and what his faith dictates.
And it gets crazy when he starts like the mutilation, like the 7-point star on the forehead. You're like, that's forever, and that's like, come on, man,
Come on.
that's forever.
That's
like, it's
forever.
we're stepping out of psychological land, and we're going into
We
like
all have those embarrassing teenage moments where we get a 7-point star carved into our forehead,
foreheads.
and then we realize that's forever.
Forever.
I think you
Excuse
guys
me,
said
Mr.
it
High Sparrow. How come you don't have the Sarah point star on your forehead?
Yeah, it's for you. Everyone knows when they look at me. This is for you.
Oh, let's take him out back and explain to him why.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Next on my list, number 9, I gotta go with Walter Frey, and he is a great villain just
I hate
because
him.
his setup of the Red Wedding. I mean,
come
that
on.
scene is forever in my head, and it's like the main thing I remember about Game of Thrones when anybody brings it up.
It's iconic, and he orchestrated it, so excellent choice. Yeah, Walter Frey. I mean, he's the kind of guy who, you know, I feel like you could go the whole story of Game of Thrones without ever running into him, but if you do, it's going down, you know, because he just sits in his castle with his daughters, and like he doesn't really get out or do much or do anything. But he, you know, he's not really going. He's not like he's too lazy to go out and like get respect.
No,
But
he
just-
wants his little corner of the world. That's all he really cares
Come
about.
into my trap.
Yeah, oh, cross my bridge. Well, yeah. Like, oh, he,
Betrayals in your future. Well,
he's
he just betrayed
like a troll.
everybody.
He's like the troll of evil villains.
Yeah, he's the worst. When Cersei was gonna kill his wife, and he's like, "I'll find another," and you're like, "Ah!" It's so gross.
They're all like these young.
There's like 15.
lady- Oh,
I can't handle him. Like he's the worst.
He's one of the grossest, I think, of
His
of Game of
death.
Thrones, which is
I
so
agree.
large.
Yes, that is a lot to say, and like
Yeah.
his death made me the happiest.
Yeah.
It's the evil of betrayal. You know, when they say some people say that it's treasonous, or there's like the most inner circle of hell is put aside for those who invite guests
Deception,
into their
yeah.
home
Yes.
and then do harm to them, because
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, that's really all you had to go on was trust of someone's word. You know, there wasn't like a Yelp review for castles. You know,
Yeah.
how do they treat their rivals? You know, when they invite them for dinner, you'll never know. And so to put that trust in someone, to put your life in their hand, to put your arms down, and to come in for a peaceful dinner and to get slaughtered, there's no greater evil back in the day than that.
Right.
Yeah.
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 For me, I just go out on a date. As soon as we break bread, I know I'm in trustworthy guy's hands.
Yeah.
Right. Totally.
Just kidding.
Until he
Until he
starts
turns
playing
into
the reins
Walter
of
Frey.
Castamere, and then it's like, oh no, not
man.
again.
I saw this already. Obviously, Walter doesn't care about the frailty of human existence, and he will forever be stuck in our minds as a horrible
And
human
on meat
being.
pies.
And meat pies. Next on my list, Ramsay Bolton.
The Ted
Just-
Bundy.
I mean, we literally
of Game of Thrones.
exactly
It's true.
watching him mutilate these people, Theon, and you know he's obviously a bastard. People called him Ramsay Snow, Bastard Bolton, but what he did to Sansa and Theon, who I eventually came to like, it was just hard to watch. Like a lot of times I had to look
was
away
difficult.
when it was his season that we were focusing on his character. I mean, he's a good villain because I just couldn't even stand to look at what he was what he was
totally
doing
evil.
to these
Totally
people.
evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
To like let him go just to then go chase him back to capture Theon again is just such a psychological and then just to castrate a guy, come on. Like that it's a lot.
It's a bit much.
It's a lot.
Not cool, man. Not cool.
Yeah, it's just
But
it's rough.
the Boltons, you gotta hand it to them. I mean, they were almost like predestined to be evil. Look at their banner. It's a flayed man. Like, I don't care
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
did,
That's
who
what they were
did
good
what.
at.
You flay a guy, that's pretty hardcore and that's pretty bad. I would have to say that Roose Bolton was more of a respectable evil man because he was pragmatic in why he did things, and he was almost like a Tywin Lannister in that regard. When he spoke, he commanded respect, and you could really feel the fear of a commanding officer in his voice. But when you look at Ramsay, he was just more of a sadist, more of a, he's just a boy who was likes to play with his toys. Just kind of a sick guy.
He enjoyed it so much. He had to enjoy.
Yeah.
Like if we were gonna look at like these villains, like Batman villains, you had Walter Frey would maybe be the Penguin, where he's like he likes his little corner, he likes his club, and he's just a little meow 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 meow. But then you have the Joker, which is Ramsay.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. He's the Joker for sure.
Yeah, because he just enjoys what he wants, and he just like he's that, and it's that joy and that pleasure that makes him the most evil.
He's stricken with a severe case of Schadenfreude, which is German for taking pleasure of others' pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that scene. Isn't he the one who shoots Rickon when he's like running to John?
He does.
Yeah.
He goes, go to your brothers, and then he shoots him in the back with a bow and arrow.
That was really hard to watch. That scene.
It was terrible.
Moving on to Ryan's favorite, Littlefinger, master of coin, master manipulator, accumulated his wealth and intelligence from the brothels that he owned, and he wasn't gonna stop until he got the throne, but he fell on the way into Arya's sword.
That was a mistrial.
That's great. Yeah.
Love of Littlefinger makes me doubt your
My love of Littlefinger
Oh boy.
will never die.
Oh boy.
Third grossest.
I love this man. I mean, he's a self-made man. You know, I mean, look, he made his own sigil. He's the master chess player. We've already established in prior episodes, if you want to go back and check them out, we have an episode entirely dedicated to Littlefinger that I enjoyed hosting. This guy, he's the string puller. He's the puppeteer.
He's the dude that was so in love with his childhood crush and so obsessed that he tried to seduce her daughter.
Okay, all right.
Gross.
We've all...
Agreed.
We've all what?
We've all what?
Come to terms with that part of it.
Yes.
There you go.
I was gonna say, like, we've all seduced our obsession's daughters.
I mean, there's not that many, you know. So there's no
there.
Facebook, okay? You can't just go swipe right on somebody. There's only so many people in Westeros worthy.
No, that's not an
It was more of a
excuse.
strategic alignment anyway. Look.
You can't make it like, listen, the dating pool is small, so it's okay if he's going after a teenager.
Look,
Right.
I'll go ahead and agree that you can categorize Littlefinger as a villain, okay?
Yes.
But
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
you are welcome, okay? But I will not sit here and allow his good name to be dragged through the mud. he's without Littlefinger, okay? We wouldn't have near as much drama, corruption, and twists and turns as we would in this world. So without
Love to hate him.
I love to love him.
You're the only one that's
I mean, he let people come in to like kill prostitutes for fun. You know, that's
what do you feel about that
only
one?
when they crossed him.
Oh boy.
She betrayed his trust. Why would was it Roose? Rouse?
Roz.
Yeah.
Roz. Why would Roz do that? She knew who she was messing with.
Don't. You're just getting grosser. You're
Moving
going to make this
on.
list.
Number 6, is Ryan Malaty, also known as the Red Priestess, Melisandre. She's the ambiguous force focused on who should be on the throne. But we can't forget that time she burned an innocent child alive at the stake.
If we bring our Batman villain stuff into this, I would say she's kind of a Catwoman, kind of Talia al Ghul, where she's I'm getting so geeky into this,
Poison Ivy.
but like,
Ivy,
Poison Ivy, where it's someone who sometimes is good. Sometimes she's on the side of like she's trying to win the battle for the good people, even though what she does is not so good, and she is kind of evil. And I mean, I'm not excusing the fact that she did kill a little girl, but you did see after it happened when it was wrong that she knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
And it's she's a very complex character. She's much more complex than a lot of these villains we're talking about.
And she's responsible for a lot of deaths. But I agree, it's more complicated than that. I mean, here's a woman who sees visions, you know, who plays with fire and doesn't get burned. She has a god who answers her in certain ways. So, I mean, to put aside the mere games of mortals and to follow her own personal intuition as to what she thinks is the right thing to do is something that we haven't seen any other character really have to wrestle with.
Right.
And you're right, so to see her come out the end of it and kind of put those things aside and think, well, maybe there is a morality that I need to start paying attention to.
Yeah.
Kind of redeems her in a way, but she's definitely a villain for most of the series. I mean, with her indifference of throwing people into the flames just so that they could fall in line is a villain thing to do. I mean, she was the one who corrupted the thoughts and, you know, of Stannis Baratheon.
Yeah.
You know, she's the one who
Shadow baby. Can't forget that.
gave birth to a shadow baby. And come on, she gave birth to a demon.
A creature.
She's
but
a
it
villain.
didn't help Stannis. And that little girl was the sweetest little girl, and that's terrible, and it helped nothing. That you're like, oh, you're going to sacrifice this kid, and like, but maybe it would help, and then it didn't. But then when she resurrected Jon Snow, then you're like, okay, glad we kept her around, but like, I hated her.
I mean, she's another one of these villains that has a strong faith system and belief system, and she feels like what she's doing is right.
Is right.
Even if it's wrong.
I know, it's just,
She's a low sparrow.
it's rough waters.
Number 5, The Mountain, Sir Gregor Clegane. He's a brutal murderer. Squeezes the brains out of my favorite character, Oberyn Martell, in season 4. Burn his brother's face. I mean, this guy is now like what? He's got all these different animal parts keeping him alive. He's like the Franken monster.
Yeah.
Franken Mountain.
When he decapitates his own horse, I was like, he's a true monster now. Because I hated, I was like, no, that was the worst.
You can't kill a horse. That's how you lose charm points in Red Dead Redemption.
Over here.
I'm at like level 3 geek right now.
Oh, God.
I actually just got the game. Looking forward to playing it. But yeah, Gregor Clegane,
world.
he's your classic muscle bad guy. He's your Bluto to your Popeye. You know, he's just got, his only motivation is to do exactly what he wants when he wants, and because he's capable of bad things, he commits bad things. And that's why he's a villain. You're capable of anything in this world, you know, but it's what you choose to do with the powers that you have that define who you are. So Gregor Clegane stays on the path of a villain while his brother
Sways back and forth.
Yeah, but it's on a rising path.
But is on a better path, I think, too. Yeah. He's had a rough life. He had to live at the mountain, man.
Man, I'm looking forward to Clegane Bowl 2019.
Oh, it's going to be great.
It's got to happen. It's got to happen. If it doesn't happen, well, they'll probably animate it. Like some geeks will animate
it's
it for
going to
us.
happen.
It has
It's
to.
leading to it. It'll happen.
Yeah, you're right.
Number 4, my favorite, a mad scientist. Everyone wants a Qyburn in their back pocket. So this guy used to be a former Maester, thrown out for conducting illegal human experiments. He's sort of like Melisandre in that he can bring people back from the dead, but he uses science instead of black magic. I just love how he can create so many different things from science, and I love that aspect of Game of Thrones. I wish we got more of him, actually.
It's like science in air quotes. I think it's kind of a black magic-y science.
Yeah, like Shakespeare potions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like
evil hamster running in a wheel sort of science.
that kind of science. I like him too, but I hate that he has the dragon weapon, that he built the dragon weapon. The dragons are my favorite, and after that I was like, get out of here, I hope you die.
Yeah.
I didn't like that, but it's weird how he kind of almost feels like a psychic, because didn't he tell Cersei that he knew that she was pregnant before she did? Didn't he like... I don't
remember that.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe.
But he also knew about the wildfire underneath, but that's just information they had. That wasn't like a psychic thing. But I thought with the pregnancy thing, she didn't know yet, but he was like, oh, there was something weird that happened where he confirmed it. I don't know. I might be totally wrong. That was in my brain for some reason.
You're right, and you know, I usually don't like to speak up unless I'm sure about things, but I am remembering there was something along the lines of where he humored her. I don't think he confirmed anything, but I think
For
it was
her,
one
he
of those
confirmed.
things.
Yeah.
It was like, we'll see.
Yeah.
Sure,
know,
that's
one
a
of
good
the-
Sure,
idea.
Yeah.
Her
Her
totally
pregnancy
pregnant.
too,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's the power behind the power.
He's also a guy who's like wants to just do what he does. Like he wants to do his experiments, and he's on Cersei's side because she's letting him do it.
Do it and leave him alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
and that's
is-
why he's like, I'll give you the mountain back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
check it out. I made the mountain.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Now leave me alone. Let me get back to it.
Yeah, that's why I kind of like him. He's like, it feels like a true scientist. It feels like what actual scientists are like. There's no moral questions to it.
Yeah, you're right.
Just
Yeah.
let's just make stuff.
Yeah.
Let's
As
just-
long as he produces what you paid for
yeah.
and acts like it took longer than it needed to take, you know.
I
Yeah.
kind of feel like if John made him a better offer, he would go over to John's.
Probably.
Yeah.
Like he's just there to do what he does.
Yeah.
And he would, but John's too righteous for that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you mean you cured grayscale without asking? I got a brood about this.
Well, that's not
That's not.
him. That's Sam.
Yeah, you're right. But who knows? He could be down there doing it.
He could be.
You know what I mean?
He's probably making a harder grayscale, like a,
Yeah.
a mechanized,
people.
weaponized grayscale.
Black
Exactly.
scale.
Yeah.
He's got no chains to weigh him down.
Number 3, I just want it to be plain House Lannister, but I also want to focus on Joffrey.
Oh,
But
yeah.
just House Lannister
What a
in
baby.
general is just like the enemy house, I feel like. But Joffrey, obviously believed to be the eldest son of Robert Baratheon, which we know not to be true. He made Sansa look at her father's head on a spike. That was horrible for me. And then
Just a
him
brat.
murdering Roz with a crossbow.
Yeah.
Him actually, the purple wedding was one of my favorite moments seeing him on
God,
screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were just like waiting for so many seasons just to see him dead.
Die.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was a glorious death. Jack Gleason is a fantastic actor, and he just friggin' nailed it, man. He's the guy you love to hate. Every time you see him on screen, he's just so cringy and just wrong. But here's another character where
Punchable face.
It's a very punchable character, right? But it's also complicated because it's like you look at this child. He was raised by. Look at the people he was raised by. You know, his incestuous mother and uncle, and you know, led to believe that anything that he wants, he can have. Anything that he does is okay. And you know, that's how you raise a monster. And then when you're given actual power, of course he's gonna abuse it.
Yeah. He's like a rich kid who was raised super spoiled.
Yeah.
Has a punchable face, became the leader of a country,
Yeah.
and is just a giant baby about it.
Found out he was a bastard, then massacred
Life-
all the other bastards.
It
Exactly.
sounds so relatable. That character.
You know,
I've dated a
life
few
mimics
Joffreys.
art, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
All
Right.
Yeah, Joffrey.
Giving my next favorite Lannister in line, number 2, Cersei. She commits unspeakable atrocities to save her family. She'll literally do anything to save her family. You know, she basically created Joffrey with Jaime, so she created this little monster.
And also
Yeah.
spoiled him to
That's
death.
what I
Yeah,
wrote down. I'm like,
exactly.
she created a monster.
Exactly. A
Totally.
monster from a monster. How do you guys feel about Cersei? I mean, she's kind of like the Mad King. I thought she was just like, I mean, at this point, she doesn't have any friends. She's just like spiraled down.
That's the thing, is
She's
where
unpredictable.
before she would be doing all these unspeakable acts. I mean, she blew up the Sept, you know, and all these innocent people. I mean, she's a true master villain who's kind of been hardened over and over and over by the loss of each family member. Now she doesn't really have anyone left. And so for a woman who has nothing to lose, who was already a villain, it's even scarier. Now, I think she's on a tipping point where she might tip one side into chaotic, you know, ruthless leadership, or maybe into the other, into finding a newfound sense of, you know, redemption. And
I don't
do you
I
think that
she's
she
far
can?
past redeeming.
You think so?
Well, the thing is, she's very relatable. She's someone who's like had to fight for her place.
Yeah.
She was seen as, for one, she's a woman in this society. That's all they're made for, is to like get married off to some king, and then they're done, and then they can produce another king, and then they're done. So she actually had to fight to get her voice heard, and then she has such a love for family that it makes it so you kind of respect her, because
Right.
she's just trying to protect her kid. She's trying to, like, she has a love that she can't really show, even though it's a very incestuous love.
Right.
It's still like, and then she was forced to be married to this guy who became kind of a fat drunk.
Yeah.
You know, and she's had it kind of tough. So it makes her relatable. I mean, it doesn't excuse her from stuff.
But don't you feel like Tommen, he killed himself because she orchestrated the whole thing with by killing his wife,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, you made your kid it's a loss.
You're one good kid.
And I know.
You're the one kid that could actually be a good king because he doesn't want to be king.
And then she tells Jaime that he betrayed the family by killing himself, and you're like, dude, you want to look deeper into that, maybe?
Yeah,
and like,
it's-
you know.
She totally doesn't see inside her own flaws.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
she
no.
totally has to block them out.
Right.
And that's what makes her so evil because she just thinks that she's right all the time.
I think she's brilliant. You know, do you remember when Littlefinger and her had a little moment in?
I'm sure you're gonna remind us.
Well, okay, so
course your favorite
Littlefinger's, you know,
You sure this wasn't the fan fiction that you wrote?
It's under my bed. Okay. No, so they're walking down. Littlefinger's getting a little cocky because he's, you know, working for Hand of the King on the council and all this stuff, and he mentions something to her about how he kind of knows about her and Jaime, and he's like, well, you know, knowledge is power, and she's like, oh, and she's like, guards, slit his throat. And then like they start to, and she's like, I changed my mind. Turn around, take 3 steps. And then she like whispers to him like power is power. And so her perspective on what power is so, and the whole show, I was actually, to bring it back earlier from previous villains, when you remember when Varys was saying to Tyrion, power is I have it pulled up, power is a curious thing. 3 great men, a king, a priest, and a rich man. Between them stands a common sellsword. Each great man bids the sellsword kill the other 2. Who lives? Who dies? Tyrion's like, well, I don't know. You know. Varys says, power resides where men believe it resides. It's a trick, a shadow on the wall, and a very small man can cast a very large shadow. Which is a wonderful quote from Varys. But this show wrestles with the idea of power, what it is, philosophically, and realistically. And I think Cersei is a very realistic type character, realistic villain, where she knows when she has power and she knows when it's slipping, and whenever it starts to slip, you can tell that she maneuvers her way back into it, and for that you gotta respect her.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, she was born into it. She doesn't know anything else other than power. All right, I want to
True
talk.
power cometh.
Exactly. I want to talk about the coldest of cold-blooded killers, the Night King. The commanding force of the White Walkers. Seems he wants to wipe out all of mankind. You know, guys, I'm kind of hoping that Melisandre can release him from his curse. Do you guys see that happening?
I mean, yeah. The thing
Wow,
is,
what a you know, empathetic way to look at it. Release him from his curse.
but
Like, that's looking at him as a
I
victim.
feel like he likes it. You know, he's like into it now.
he's still.
I mean, especially now he's got a white dragon.
Yeah.
He's going to be flying around having the time of his life.
The thing is, like, the thing with the Night King and all of the whites is, like, they're forces of nature. There's no real motivation except the way that a cancer has motivation.
Yeah.
Just to spread and take over and devour. And that's why there are, like, a lot of parallels that we've talked about before with global warming and climate change. And they're just something that's coming, and it's more important than all the little petty political squabbles because you can't understand it, and it's unstoppable, and it's just spreading. It's a natural disaster. So you need to be able to, like, that's what makes it so evil because there's no reasoning with it. So it's not a person to be cured right now of any sort of curse that I could see because it's just evil. It's like, and I don't know who the Night King is, and no one really does, and there's theories about that, but like it's that cancer of it that makes him the worst villain.
I feel like Bran's going to step in eventually and have a big role to play.
If not become the Night King, like a lot of people think.
Guys, we just have a
time
few
travel.
seconds left, but I want to throw a quick game your way.
Throw it at us.
Okay, who would win in a fight? Ramsay versus Joffrey, go.
Ramsay.
On like personal hand to hand, Ramsay, duh.
Just as a
even-
villain, stacking
even as a
one
leader.
villain against the other.
Joffrey would have just called the Hound on him. Joffrey wins.
Okay.
Yeah, Ramsay.
Number 2, Cersei versus Melisandre.
I put that Cersei would find help because she always does.
Right, just like Joffrey would.
Yeah, but
The Lannisters don't fight themselves.
Melisandre can birth
except for Jaime.
demons. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Cersei could come up with an army, and then she's like, "I'm a birth 12 demons right now, and you're all dead."
I got a bunch
Yeah.
of demon
I
babies.
think Cersei has like more of a game chess master. So
That's what I
never
mean.
get to
Like
that point.
she knows how to like
would never get
find
to the fight.
before the Red Woman even knows it.
Yeah.
Cersei would be like, okay, yeah, I'll meet you at the playground at high noon.
Yeah,
And set in the mountains.
yeah.
Sons of the Harpy versus the Mountain. She's taking
this is interesting.
It's like an idea, like a
Yeah.
immovable object meets an unstoppable force. You know?
This is interesting because I think the mountain could be overpowered.
What about
I
the
don't
mountain
know.
versus
He's a
actual
dead man.
mountain?
Why? He's already
Oh,
dead.
that's
He's
the question.
Like
Franken Mountain?
Franken Mountain.
Oh, Franken Mountain. Franken Mountain.
100%. He's
Yeah.
already a dead man.
Yeah, I think the only one that could kill Franken Mountain is probably his brother with a flaming sword.
Yeah.
And that's it.
You'd hope it'd be
with a
a
flaming
Hint,
sword.
hint.
Yeah.
Okay, guys,
Drop us
last
the mic.
one. Everyone versus the Night
Right.
King.
Good versus evil.
Night King. It's Night King.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone? Like all the
Yeah.
villains or just everyone?
Well, all the villains are obviously going to have to come together
Yeah.
in some
That's
way
true.
to
Right.
fight the Night King.
I would love it to be like the underdogs of everyone, and everyone is an underdog, which makes it interesting to win, but
But nobody here has any dragon glass, so
Well, Valerian Steel.
yeah, I'm not. Well, no, you're right. Well,
They're gonna share their
Joffrey has a
weapons,
Valerian
okay?
Steel sword, but
Yeah.
what are they gonna
Sharing.
do with it?
We're sharing. We're spreading the weapons
Joffrey
around.
would win over the Night King.
The Dayman destroys the Night King. Done.
Who does?
The Dayman.
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
I don't know.
It's a reference from
Dayman,
another
right,
show.
guys,
Crossover.
nobody knows.
They're making us wrap up. You guys can find me, Kristen Elizabeth Snyder, on all the social mediums at Cinematic Escape. Mr. Dave Child, where can we find you?
Oh, you can find me at Mr. Dave Child, Mr. Dave Child on Twitter, and the Instagrams are davechild.com. Why? Because I'm a Dave Child.
wow, I'm Tara Erickson, and you can find me at Tara Erickson, TaraErickson, and on YouTube with the same name.
I like that. That's very sexy. I like that
It's
one
good,
the best.
right?
Yeah, very good.
Better
very
than
good.
Dave's.
Wow.
Can you top that, Ryan Malaty? What do you got for us?
And I'm Ryan Malaty.
It's just
perfectly-
always little finger
perfectly
every
done.
time.
Where can we
You
find
guys keep
you?
up with me at my name everywhere, Twitter, Instagram. I'm not really on Twitter as much anymore, but yeah, find me out there. Shoot me a geeky question. I'll try to answer it with the geeky answer. And thank you guys so much.
Thank
Please
you.
subscribe if you haven't. Give us a like and a comment. We love to read them. And we'll
I
see
think
you.
next month we should talk about the love stories of Game of Thrones. I don't know, I'm not the host, up to you guys, but I think that'd be cool. You know, month of February. You can catch us the last week of February, usually the last Wednesday or Thursday at 6 or 7 o'clock. We can't wait till the new season begins. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great night. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.